My last video was less than complimentary about how Bothans have been handled in a lot of cases in the Star Wars universe, so today I wanted to make it up to our furry friends by pointing out just how impressive their position within the galaxy is. Today's video was supposed to be about the Hutts, but I decided that video deserved a new galactic map animation, so with limited time this week to do that thanks to a wedding I've got to go to, my script for it looks like a fairly ominous hole in my Google Docs. Anyone who's watched Return of the Jedi, let alone seen the many appearances and references to it in other media, will probably know about the Bothan spy net, which was responsible for discovering and passing along the location of the second Death Star. But what you may not know about is how much military and political power they're always implied to have in the galaxy as well. Although they become key member worlds of the New Republic following the fall of the Empire, the Bothans have actually done a pretty good job of maintaining some level of independence, or at least the appearance of it, throughout galactic history. Hence Bothan space being one of the few allied regions of the Republic period to retain that status into the Empire, which we'll get to the meaning of in a moment. Most impressively, you'll notice the Bothans are neighbors of a particularly giant powerhouse, the Hutts, and they lay directly between the main borders of Hutt space in the Imperial period and other key Hutt holdings like Tatooine. Pre-Imperial maps, particularly in the 1,000 years leading up to and including the Clone Wars, directly credit the Hutts with control over some of these regions, but they never make it past Bothan space. The Bothan homeworld of Bothawui, which I will never care about the pronunciation of because there's not a single one that doesn't sound ridiculous, and the 150 or so other colonies of the Bothans, including Borsphalia's homeworld of Kothlas, were able to hold off Hutt advances into their territory, maintaining that independence for millennia. You may think of Hutts as relatively peaceful underworld rulers, but at various points their soft power went hard, enslaving many species on a whim and wiping out entire sectors worth of planets when they were deemed a threat. So being able to fend off the Hutts for millennia, as the Essential Atlas credits them with doing, is a pretty big deal regardless of the period. The impressiveness level of maintaining the Allied region status, even under the Empire, is a bit more questionable, but it certainly means something. What that something is just isn't clear. The Bothans were certainly subjected to the Empire's atrocities against non-humans as much as anyone else, which comes up a fair bit in the books, so they weren't left alone as much as other highlighted regions like the Hutts, Hapens, or even puppet states like the Corporate Sector, which largely just did what the Empire wanted anyways. Historically, the Allied regions were ruled by Moffs under the Republic, and operated as semi-independent territories earlier on. But over time that became increasingly ceremonial, referring to mostly single-species enclaves, which could explain the Bothans having that status under the Republic. Sometimes the regions just referred to particularly hard areas to navigate, which couldn't explain Bothan space. Whatever the case, they remained prominent enough under the Republic that they were one of those few regions carried over under the Empire as a labeled Allied region. Whatever the meaning there, Bothan military power came to the direct attention of the galaxy again following the Empire, during the Second Galactic Civil War, when their cooperation was heavily courted not for their spying capabilities but for their navy. They partnered with the also powerful Corellians and, funnily enough, the Hutts, and they deployed several new types of Bothan-made ships, implying they'd had significant shipbuilding capabilities in the past as well, supported by their earlier successes against the Hutts. So really the message is don't mess with the Bothans. That's all for today, thanks to Borsphaliia for sponsoring this video. You can't spell failure without failure. Hopefully the devouring video and the so far 10 plus page long Order 66 Survivor video will be coming out soon.